2-1. Chelsea, Ali, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to have a chat.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like you've had such a massive week on the field, and then what's shaped up to be a massive week off the field as well. So, really cool to chat through this stuff. But I suppose firstly, where I want to start is a lot of people will be listening to this podcast, wanting to hear more about your post and a little bit behind that story. The reaction and the amount of people wanting to chat to you about it, I imagine, has been pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, to be honest, it was just a grumpy Tuesday in class for me. I was feeling the effects of a massive come down after what was a absolutely awesome historic weekend for us women's rugby players. And like I said in my post, it's a feeling that I have felt many times before, but this week it just felt tougher than usual. And yeah, that's where that post stemmed from, and I really honestly did not expect it to hit a chord with so many different people, and for it to be shared and liked and commented on so much. So I am
Yeah.
blown away by the uptake of it, but I'm also feeling very proud of myself for doing it, I guess, because of the amount of people who have reached out to me and told me that my post has made them feel better about their situation, and to know that they're not alone in feeling this as well.
Yeah, it really hit home with so many people. We're going to go into a lot of details on it. You said that you got approached by a lot of different places, news agencies, and different organizations. Already, just looking on Google, it's amazing the amount of different headlines these people create around this
Yeah.
story. How have you navigated through? Yep, keen to speak with you. Not too keen, and just getting your message across the right way.
Yeah, so I did the post and then I went straight to training actually. So it
Cool.
was a couple hours later, I checked my phone and I was just like, what has happened? I probably had literally, no exaggeration, over 50 media
Wow.
requests, whether it be for radios or newspapers or podcasts.
Wow.
But I was very overwhelmed, and I knew that I didn't really want to speak to anyone that I didn't know or that I didn't trust, because I know how media can kind of skew your words if they want to, and they can kind of point you in a direction to make you say something that you don't want to say, or um, something along those lines. So I was very wary of that, and I have completely stepped back actually from media for that reason. And yeah, I guess this with you here on this podcast is the first real open and honest chat I've had with someone.
Awesome. Well, I mean, firstly, thanks so much for coming on. Like, it's a huge privilege for me to chat through this stuff. It's an area that I'm massive on, and with my actions trying to push as well. And we've obviously developed a relationship speaking about your kicking and in the rugby world. So it'll be cool to go through this stuff. Before we get into it, Chiefs Mana, how good? We got a final
How
coming up.
good.
I know you're pretty hearty.
Yeah.
You've got a great rugby IQ on you. What's been the difference this year for the Chiefs compared to what they rolled out last year?
Um, I've been asked this question a few times, and it's really interesting because people say, why were they so bad last year and why are they so good this year? But I think people forget that last year actually they lost a lot of their games in the last minutes by only a
Mm.
few points, and this year they've actually won quite a few games in the last minutes by a few points. So
Yeah.
the Chiefs weren't a bad team last year. I just think this year they've absorbed the pressure a lot more. They've been able to really execute in those clutch moments. Obviously, DMAC has had
Yeah.
ice in his veins the whole season, but I've heard really good things about Clayton McMillan as well, and the kind of culture he's helped build on there. And yeah, I just think they got the right mix of youth and experience in there as well.
100% right. And just having, Super Rugby New Zealand just showed the quality of all those teams. Someone was always going to come off worse, right? And it happened to
Mm.
be the Chiefs. And you're right with DMAC being so clutch. You mentioned there about Clayton and sort of Chiefs Mana. How did you girls, as the Chiefs Super Rugby team, the first women's team, how did you guys buy into that? What did you do to get Chiefs Mana within your group?
Yeah, so it was a tough campaign in the sense that we only had a couple of trainings together, because girls travelled from out of the region, from Taranaki, for example, which is 3.5 hours one way. So we had a limited amount of time together, but it was of the utmost importance for us to really set the scene, to really get our culture going strong. So our whole first day we had together was around the culture, around understanding what Chiefs Mana is and what it's about. And the coolest thing was actually getting Sam Kanan to talk about Chiefs Mana and the history of the Chiefs and the legacy. And he spoke so well and just really welcomed us into the environment. And I think it really gave us just an inside feeling and an inside way of how the Chiefs think as a franchise and where their mana comes from, I guess. So yeah, it's so awesome to feel to be a part of that now.
Just a rugby question, limited time, you're getting a group coming together. What did you guys focus on getting organised first as a team coming together on the field?
Yeah, on the field. So, I mean, we did come from all different regions, but we were quite lucky in the sense that there's a massive bulk group of us, I think 16 to 20 odd players that have been at Black Ferns camps all together for the last little while. So it was important for us to connect with the coaches and to ensure that our language in the Chiefs team wasn't far off what we were using for Black Ferns, and our systems and stuff, little tweaks here and there, but also not too far off, because in between Chiefs trainings, we had Black Ferns camps and we had FPC and we had club. So switching in between all these teams already mentally is quite a challenge. So yeah, on the grass, we established our systems and stuff first and foremost, and then the coaches put in their own little flavors and little tweaks, and just put in place what we established to be the best brand of rugby for us to be playing.
Isn't it tough as a game driver and like a voice, a game caller, when you've got different calls for different teams out the back, tip calls, miss passes? Like, isn't it just a challenge to say the right word at the right time?
It is really tough, especially when, just your normal setup, like a forward pot off 9 or a forward pot off 10, and you're going between 3 or 4 different teams and they're all different. It's like the most basic thing, but
yeah, you just end up saying gibberish. I've been there, and I feel you on that one. And James, your fiance, I'm pretty sure,
yes,
is involved. How did he go coaching? Was he any good?
Yeah, I am pretty honest, and I will be his harshest critic and always give him feedback. But James is a really good coach. He coached me before we got together, which raised a few eyebrows, but I always from the start said he was an amazing coach, and he actually trained our Waikato World Cup players, did all our schoolwork with the girls, and all of that for him as well comes off his own bat. He doesn't get a cent or much recognition either for all that he does, and he puts hours in every week into women's rugby coaching.
Yeah. Oh, mate, awesome effort. And you mentioned earlier just about Black Ferns camps. How have you guys, it's almost been 2 years, right, since a test match. We're feeling it as well. How have you guys gone at camps, staying focused, Zoom meetings as we went through it? How's that journey been?
Yeah, it's been really up and down, I'll be honest, this year. The girls came in the best condition we've ever came in to a January camp at the start of the year, because it's obviously World Cup year, it's at home. So it was really exciting.
What was your Bronco?
Under 520, which is a gold star for me. So that's where I stick to.
Nice.
So it was a really exciting place to be with the girls. And
gold star.
we were really, obviously with the news of the postponement, it's been really tough, and it's been tough for a number of different reasons. There were girls this year ready to hang their boots up straight after World Cup. There are girls that are desperate to have families, girls that have just put a lot of things on hold and to get really excited for this World Cup. So yeah, I guess to some people on the outside, a year postponement doesn't seem like much, but as a team, we really felt it, and it was really tough with motivation levels and just staying hungry, I guess, because 2 years without a test is a really long time. But in saying that, I think our management group and our leadership group within the team have done an outstanding job at first and foremost making sure that the girls' well-being is at the front and center of our concern, and individually making sure every one of our players and wider squad members is actually doing okay. And then secondly, restructuring our whole theme towards World Cup, the position we're in right now, and kind of setting new targets and stuff for us, so that little motivation slip didn't stay there for long. We've kind of reset the scene, and we've got new things to focus on this year. So they have done an awesome job. I take my hat off to them, because I know they were feeling it as well. But another positive is, because we already came into this year in such a good shape overall as a team, we're preparing for next year already a head start. So I think, we need to look at it in a positive light, in the fact that if we were going to be ready this year, then next year we're going to be more ready than ever.
And I suppose one thing we spoke about as a coaching group with the Wallaroos is maybe we came in a little bit too hot when COVID first hit. The girls and the players had so many other things in their life, well-being, jobs, things they were like, so many things were up in the air, bills to pay, that a little bit of space was needed. Did you feel that you got that as well from the coaching group?
Yeah, I think if you talk to our coaching group, they'd probably agree with you that they, in hindsight, they just wanted to make sure we were staying on top of things throughout COVID, that we were ready. But and I think it's not just rugby coaches that would have been like this. I think it's everyone around the world. We didn't quite realize the impacts and effects on every individual that COVID had. So in hindsight, we did feel that there was pressure to still stay on top, but there was still so many other things happening in our personal lives. So we're calling this period here as well still a little bit of a COVID hangover. There's still a lot of things to tidy up. We're still bouncing back from it. So they are being very kind of lenient and understanding with us and where we're at mentally, which has been really good.
I'm interested to hear about test matches, right? So you've now had still camps with the Black Ferns, all these trainings, Zooms, organisation, structures, the rest of it. But without a test match, the learnings don't really happen. So what sort of weight do you put on actually playing a game versus maybe spending a week together in a camp? What are the differences?
Oh, there's a huge amount of difference. You can train all you want, but it's not until you get out there and you're able to review a game and then have another crack at it the following week, that's where the real learnings come from. So for example, the 2 test series that we usually have with the Wallaroos every year, that is just gold in terms of our preparation and learnings for the girls, because you can try all you want to, but you can never replicate the pressure and the atmosphere of a test match just at a training. So not having test matches has been tough, especially when that's what you live for. Every time I go to training in the morning and at night, I think about the next time I get to pull on the black jersey, and those are the moments that everything becomes worth it for. So I'm absolutely hanging out. The game on the weekend was a good little taster, and next weekend in camp, actually, we're going to have some internal kind of situational games, which will be good as well. But like I said, nothing compares to that test match feeling.
And for our girls, we had people stepping off a club rugby field to playing the Black Ferns in Perth in this massive stadium with noise and pressure, and you just can't replicate it. And I definitely compare the goal kicking side of it as well. Like, game kicks are completely different to a training field kick. The pressure, 100%. The vibe, your hands are shaking putting the ball on the tee. Like, it's just so different. So the whole game's like that. So I totally agree with the value of playing.
Yeah.
Glenn Moore was my first North Otago coach. So I
Oh,
played for
really?
North Otago and he was the head coach. And I really enjoyed Glenn. How's he been for you throughout the last few years in your journey?
Yeah, so GM's been with us since 2015 now.
Yeah,
So
true.
it's been quite a long time, and I respect him hugely as a coach. Not only because of what he does on the field and how hard he works to analyze other teams and to um, put a game plan in place to allow us to play the best rugby against whatever team we come against. But it's the off-field stuff for him that I respect the most. He is one of the most genuine people I've ever come across. He genuinely cares about each and every one of us. We joke around and call him dad and all of that, but at the end of the day, it is a professional relationship where he's going to tell you the things you need to hear. But like I said, at the end of the day, he genuinely cares about all of our well-beings and not only getting the best of us out of us as rugby players, but also off the field as well.
You got any examples of that?
Yeah, so all throughout COVID, actually, is just prime examples. He would call me, and usually, if you're getting a call from a coach and you've got in your back of your head, he's probably calling everybody. So, but just be a quick token, check in, how are you? But I'd be on the phone with him for over an hour, and he genuinely wants to know about how my family's going, how James is, how my house is, that type of thing. Um, Also, just really recently, off the back of this post, I was, like I said, I was quite nervous after I posted it, and I realized how much traction it was getting. I was sitting there kind of waiting for the bigwigs to call me, and I didn't know if I was gonna feel any repercussions or get blasted or anything. And next minute, Glenn Moore comes up on my phone, and my heart starts beating. I'm like, oh no, what's he gonna say? But he actually didn't ask about the post or any backlash or anything. He genuinely, again, just said, I'm worried about you. Are you okay? You know, I'm here to talk if you need anything. If there's anything we can do at NZR to help you and your mindset in that space, then just call me. I'm only a phone call away, and I'll pick up every time. So that just,
Yeah.
I think, right there goes to show.
You mentioned about getting a call from the big wigs. What was going through your head that you thought you might get a call like that?
It's always hard, kind of navigating being a professional or semi-professional athlete, and I guess what you post on social media or any kind of collabs you do or anything like that. It's always really murky, like the grey area. And I just, with my post, although I made sure it was just more of a reality into my own life, I didn't want to call anyone out or anything. I just wasn't sure how they'd take it and if it'd look offensive to them. But now stepping back and after having phone calls with some of those big wigs and realizing that, again, very similar to GM, actually, New Zealand Rugby Union have actually called me just to check in to make sure I'm doing okay, which is, that's amazing. Like, it's made me feel really kind of appreciated, I guess, and shows that they do care about us. But yeah, just going back to your question, it is really hard just to know where you draw the line, I guess, with some of that stuff.
Yeah, I do want to go into the post chat now. So it was titled Reality Check. And just to put some context to it, so I went back and had a look at your last 6 Instagram posts, right? And likes aren't everything. We can all agree on that. But from 6 ago, so you had 923 likes, 658 likes, 623 likes, 869 likes, 536 likes, so all under 1,000. And then this last one is up at 5,775 with almost 300 comments. Like, it really has gone viral, you'd say, in the rugby world. Why do you think initially it got so much traction? And also, it was Tuesday morning, right? What kind of led that decision to, I feel like, putting this up?
Um, I'll start with that last part there. So what led to it was the feeling of being on such a high. Like if you look at those last 6 posts, it's me playing for the Chiefs, just like absolutely buzzing in life. Like this is a dream of mine. We did it. Absolute historic occasion. And then Monday, I was still on a bit of a buzz, but as the day wore on, I just realized, well, that's over. And has anything changed? And I'm still getting up super early to go to training so I can go to work, so I can fit physio in at lunch. I was meal prepping. I was going to training late at night, coming home after dark. I had a 4-hour FPC training on Monday after the weekend. And I was sitting there in class. I was teaching at the time. My boys were doing a silent test, so that's all right. And I just thought, man, I've been here for 10 years at the highest level of women's rugby in the world. And I'm still doing this just to live.
Yeah.
And I probably, it is being quite open and vulnerable, but I wasn't in a good headspace at the time. I was feeling quite down after, I guess you could call it a come down after the weekend. And when I thought about it, I experienced that all the time. There's all this hype around some games and stuff, but the reality is that on Monday we go back to our normal day jobs to get by. And yeah, so I was in a pretty low space when I posted it. And yeah, I was nervous when I hit send, but I didn't think it would blow up that much. But I guess the reason I think it has is, firstly, the first lot of comments that I got on the post were all from my own teammates, just saying, putting emojis like 100 and thumbs up and hearts, and saying, I fully understand that you just said exactly what we're all feeling so well. And then more and more people shared it around. And I guess when the Legend of Marty Banks page shared it on their Facebook, it got a lot of traction on there. And that's where the trolls and that started coming in and telling me I should just give up, and I'm just moaning and complaining and stuff. And there was a lot of back and forth. So the coolest thing for me was all the direct messages that I got. There would have been over 500 probably, and they all came from not only women in rugby, but others around the world, like women in sport around the world, and followers of women's rugby. And just I was getting some really long, heartfelt messages about what they're going through, and they couldn't believe that we were the same over here in this amazing rugby nation. So yeah, like I'm still pretty blown away about it. But yeah, the good thing has been 99% positive. So yeah.
Throughout your playing career, I'm sure you've had the odd troll turn up. How have you handled it in the past, and also seeing it come through on this post? It's funny how, obviously, I'm in the Instagram world, how you get so much positive, and that one little troll just gets in your head and you just want to get your gloves up and scrap. How have you handled that?
I've been involved in women's rugby in lots of different circles for a long time. I've worked as a women's rugby development officer. I've coached, and I've obviously played. So I've come up against it quite a lot from a young age. Actually, right back to when I was playing rugby when I was 11 years old, and I played in the Waikato under-13 boys team. And I actually had to go to a meeting the morning of this tournament after I'd been training with the team for months. It was like going to court, really. And I had to go in this room full of old men, basically, who were voting for or against the reasons why I should or shouldn't be allowed to play rugby. And so I was eventually ended up being allowed to play, but that caused a lot of arguments down there. So it started from a young age, but I guess I've grown quite a big backbone to all of it. But in saying that as well, this post and the stuff I've read on it has some of it's really grinded my gears, I guess. And it has been really hard not to jump on and defend myself in the game. But I don't think with some of those people I'd get anywhere. So
No,
I've been good.
and I think anyone that's had an experience of going with a troll, you don't get anywhere. There's no the mind and the way that trolls think and their thought process just isn't able to be constructive in any way. So there's just absolutely no point.
I've found though that with the trolls in that, I'm just sitting back and I don't actually have to jump in and stand up for me and in my sport and my team, that everyone else is doing it for me. So it's been pretty cool to see that.
Yeah. The one sentence that really jumped out at me and probably a lot of other people was I am struggling in caps lock. And I suppose that really sums up how you are feeling. So probably a little bit more on that, but what are some of the ways that you see could help players like yourself not have such a struggle to go through?
And
sorry, Charles, before you jump into that, I think it's important that it's players like yourself that are at the top. Like rugby needs to be a product that's looked after the world-class athletes like yourself. I don't think everyone struggle is part of it. It should be part of it. It's a really important part of the journey. But then once you get into this top shelf of players, I think the struggle needs to be helped.
Yeah, I agree. And for me to write something like that, people who know me will know that it's probably been a long time coming, and I've reached kind of a point now where something has to change if I'm going to keep doing this. I love rugby, and I'm not going to give up playing. I don't want to give up playing. That's what I've worked my whole life for, really, to be in the position I am now. But I'm an advocate for speaking up about mental health, and I think it's something, and not only in women's rugby, but in other sports at an elite level, it's not talked about nearly enough as it needs to be. I know for a fact, because I'm so close with some of the girls, that I'm not the only one who's struggling. And as I've learned since I've put that post up, there's hundreds of others struggling. So when you ask what needs to be done, I don't have the answers for that, but there definitely needs to be massive amounts of support in place, especially when it's out there now, knowing the type of lives that we are living. I just wonder if people really think that's sustainable. I can tell them it's not. So something needs to be done so that we don't have to work these other jobs, I guess. To put it straight, to be really just open and honest. We need to move from being semi-professional to being professional, to be able to sustain the level of rugby that we've got into playing at, and the amount of commitment that we need to put into the game.
Mm. And you're also, from physically, you're putting yourself at such an injury risk, right? So you go through the week you've been through body-wise, plus then the mental strain that you're putting on yourself. No wonder the body's saying on a sad day when you're playing, hey, I'm not at 100. And that's when bad things happen, unfortunately. So, and just to go back to that mental health stuff, how are you guys, conversations around that getting looked after? Are you guys involved with people that are helping in that space?
Yeah, it's definitely improved over the years. We now have PDMs and mental skills help as well, which has been awesome. And they're really good people to talk to, but at the same time, it doesn't fix what we're going through in our personal lives. Like that thing you talked about, the mental and physical fatigue. It's just been really recently that I've fully experienced that, and it is burnout. I went for a 5K run the other day, and usually I'd just go for that and just use the run to clear my head or whatever. Honestly, I got 2Ks in and my body just said no. Like it was the weirdest thing. I just stopped and I just thought something's just not right. And I think it was just my mind connecting with my body and saying, you've just been pushing your mind and body so hard for a long period of time now. And it was a really kind of freaky feeling when that happened. And I guess a bit of a wake up call to know that I can't keep doing this the way I am.
What did you do after that run?
I came home and laid on the ground and just I'm grateful for James. He's good and he tries to be really understanding of what I'm going through. So I spoke to him, and he is the FPC coach as well. So just said to him, I'm going to have to pull back from some things. And the hardest thing for me with that, though, just going a little bit off topic, but it is being a leader in each of those different teams and knowing in my own head and feeling it in my own body that I need a rest, and maybe it's better for me to watch a training or step back from one session a week. But at the same time, knowing that I am a leader and the girls will look up to me, and especially the young girls on the team, they're going to be following my example. So there's also that pressure that I guess I put it on myself, but that's just my personality, and it's the pressure of wanting to lead the way in terms of my actions as well. So I'm just going through this period of time at the moment where I'm realizing that I do sometimes need to put myself first, and that if I do put myself first, then there's going to be a better product from me at the end of the day. Yeah. So I'm just going through that at the moment and trying to work it all out.
And the other thing that really stood out to me was how you talked about, like you said, about the 3 jobs and the 3 teams, and mentally trying to put good energy and perform roles to the best of your ability on show. People know your name. They expect a certain level of person when you walk in the room. I'd imagine the energy zap on yourself, and also how disappointing it must be inside. I know when I prep for a job and I don't get my prep right, or you just miss something, it really hits you because you take pride in your work. There must be a bit of that when you feel yourself dropping the ball a bit just because you're so done mentally.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, my personality is that I set really high goals and I've got super high expectations of myself. And I think any kind of sports person at the top of their game has that same personality. Otherwise you're not going to make it there. But that's where it gets tricky, because at every single training I want to give my best, and sometimes you're in the gym with all your other squad members and stuff, and I just feel flat, and you feel like you can't push as much, or you can't run fast enough, or something like that. And I don't like feeling like that. I don't like feeling like my performance is slipping, and it's really hard because I know I should take some days off work. So because rugby is my ultimate goal, right? That's at the top of my priority list. But I have to do this teaching job on the side as well to pay for things in life. And I'm doing a bit of work with Sky TV at the moment, which I really enjoy doing.
Yep.
And that for me is in the hope to set myself up for after rugby as well. So at the moment, I'm a rookie in that area, but I want to kind of give that my best as well. So if I could, my ultimate is just do rugby and do a bit of Sky work. But I'm still really needing to do the teaching in between. So I can't give my best to all of it at the same time, unfortunately.
I'm so keen to hear more about the Sky role and hear how they're sort of upskilling you and what you're learning in that space. We'll come back to that. So if equal pay would be the absolute dream result, right? I think we can all agree that would be magic. If that isn't possible, what do you sort of see as the next step? You mentioned about going professional. Does that mean full 12 months? Does that mean an international window? What are you sort of thinking about there?
Yeah, professional to me is, I don't know what the proper meaning is, but it's having rugby is your job and you don't have to work anything else. It covers everything. You're comfortable. It is having windows throughout the year to build up, to peak in, to base your training around, because in the last few years in women's rugby, it's been really hard training wise to really build for a peak, because there's so many different competitions and tournaments and things scattered all around the place, and then there'll just be a little international window thrown in the middle of club rugby where you're still in pre-season, and then another one at the end of the year to lay in with the northern hemisphere. So that's also really hard on the body, because I feel like I try to peak all year round, because you want to be performing in international and FPC and now in super. So professional would look like, first off, having it as my main job, not having to do any other work. It's training in normal hours. So what the boys do, it's a 9 till 4, 9 till 5 job. We do a session in the morning, have a bit of PD, another session in the afternoon maybe, and you're home at a decent hour to cook dinner and to hang out with your family. And then it's the having, I guess, the consistency with the calendar in the year with the other tier 1 and tier 2 nations around the world, so that you all have kind of an idea of where to peak and where to recover.
I think that's such an important point, right? Because when you're playing club and you want to play your best club rugby, and you go to Farah, you want to play your best, and now as super produced, you want to play your best. So therefore, your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday gym session, you're constantly thinking, I just want to keep the legs a little bit fresh. I don't want to overcook. So you never get that time period in the year to get your gains, to get your fitness, to get your strength. Yep. Is that how it feels?
Perfect. Yeah, that's nailed it. It's exactly how it feels. We obviously get probably 4 weeks off over Christmas and New Year, where we can have that downtime. But even for me in that time, that is just, you're just doing pre-season mahi there, and you're getting prepped for the season. And then once games start, like club starts in February, and your last test match this year, we're not going to get home till mid-December. So it does feel like a whole year of peaking, and like you say, not really getting a chance to take a step back and then get gains in the areas that you really need to.
Yeah. And I suppose, have you been sitting around in cafes and chats and maybe with the other girls, and I'm sure you've been in cafes, viewing from your Instagram. So just speaking about what potentially the Super Rugby comp could look like. And the reason I bring it up is because being in Melbourne in Australia, I've been exposed to AFLW players and also NRLW players. And I'm opening a can of worms here, and this is just a discussion, but maybe there's an opportunity to have a unique style of play, competition, game structure that allows, we all want the women's game and women to benefit professionally. So can we now produce a really unique product that spectators can all buy into, we all love, it's exciting. Has there been any of those sort of chats around what the game could look like?
Yeah, I was in a meeting just the other night actually about that very thing, about Super Women's Rugby and how it's going to look, and how it's going to be marketed, and all of that, and if it's going to have a different flavour to the men's. The thing with women's rugby is it's so fast growing at the moment, and if you look at the numbers here in New Zealand, and I'm not sure if it's the same in Aussie, but for our youth rugby players, women's players, young girls who are playing, is just going up on this exponential curve, and whereas junior boys playing is going downhill quite quick as well. So it's really only going to be a matter of time before there's actually quite an even number of males and females playing the game, which is why, to me, it shows that the investment in this game needs to happen now. And the chats around Super Rugby and what it's going to look like are ongoing. There's been talk about having games played in unique locations, like in the middle of kind of Auckland City at a park, and like just different things like that. We're talking about the branding and the integrity with the comp, and just making sure that we do it right and we don't just copy exactly what the men's do. I think it's important. We need to learn from them and what works well, what doesn't, what we could improve on, how we could give it our own flavour before we sign off on anything for next year.
And here's another one for you to think about. In the AFLW, right? So they use a slightly smaller ball. They have shorter quarters and 2 less players on the field. NRLW, shorter halves. They have a 40-30 kick rather than a 40-20 kick. So little subtle rule changes. And I guess where I'm going with this is, right, so the player pool in the women's game isn't as strong as the men's because it's not professional, right? And that's a no-brainer. So can we then have a product that spectators, fans all love and is different, looks different, and is a faster pace and more skillful game? Is that something that you'd be open to as a player? This is not your decision. I'm not putting words in your mouth. But how do you feel about that type of conversation?
There has been conversation about the smaller ball. I know that. But for me, if I were to vote, I'd want to stick with the normal ball. It's the one I've played with my whole rugby life. That's 24 years now. So
yeah,
I think if something like that was to be introduced, like slightly different field dimensions or little rule changes here and there, I think it's something that would have to be started at school level now. Kind of not brought in for us who have been playing the standard brand of rugby our whole lives. This is just my opinion, but I kind of already think with the way women play the game, us women play the game, it actually is a faster, more exciting game because there's less kicking. We hold the ball for longer periods of play and that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, I guess in women's AFL and stuff, it's a bit different because it is all based on kind of how far you can kick the ball. Whereas for us in women's 15s, we just don't kick the ball if we don't need to. So it does become much more of a running game. So yeah, look, to answer your question, not something I've thought of. But yeah, if it was to be, I believe it needs to be done for girls just starting to play the game.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And again, I think whatever works best to get us to the end result we're all trying for is the outcome that we're after. Love it. I want to chat about Sky TV. Sounds like a really cool opportunity. Like I've seen you do a little bit of stuff, and I've seen a few of the other girls jumping on there. Must be pretty daunting having a microphone chucked in your face and having to chat.
Yeah, I don't really know specifically where it came about that I'm now getting to go on Sky TV probably once a week to talk about code. But I think just I guess from doing promos and little Instagram stories around the place and interviewing girls, I guess they kind of figured that I like to chat. I like to chat about rugby. So
yeah,
it's an awesome opportunity and something I really enjoy. It's just one of those things that you're working, but it doesn't really feel like work because you're talking about rugby with other people who love rugby. So
yeah,
I've kind of decided, and now that I am getting older, I'm thinking about what to do after rugby, and if there were some opportunities to work a bit more for Sky or do some sideline stuff or anything like that, I'd jump at it. But at the moment, I'm kind of just learning off the other guys in the roles like Jeff Wilson and Joey Wheeler and Kirsty Stanaway. She's amazing as well. So
yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, jumping in of the back of them, chatting with them, and learning off them as well. So it's really fun.
What are the upskill things they're putting you through, or mentors, or conversations? I don't, because there's such a skill set to talking on TV, right? Have you done some cool classroom stuff on that?
No, I haven't. I mean, I'm relatively new to doing any of it, and at the moment, I'm just jumping on Kirsty's show as a guest every now and again, and doing a few interviews here and there. So nothing like that as of yet. But if I was to dive deeper into the role or go grow any further in any of the roles, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of PD opportunities for me to learn a little bit more about it. So I'm not just a random out there with a microphone talking about the game.
From what I've seen, I think you've got a future in it, and you're doing a good job.
Oh, thank you.
I want to talk about your goal kicking now. Firstly, Hazel did an amazing job for the.
How good was she?
Sideline, bang.
She was kicking off the vortex, I think, eh?
Yeah, pretty good marketing opportunity there. Thanks, Hazel.
Yeah.
And you obviously gave her the kicking duties, or how did that conversation go down?
Oh, yeah, I guess we didn't actually really talk about it. We both had our tea there, and then I don't know, sometimes it's just the number 10 is the token kicker. So she just took the role, and I'm very glad she did, to be honest.
Absolutely nailed it. Your kicking, you were off the RB88T and you were with the original grey one, but lately you've gone to the pink. Why the change?
Oh, I chop and
Lost
change.
it?
I'll probably use the blue one next time you see me. No, I've got all of them up in my wardrobe.
Yes.
Yeah, just whatever one I'm feeling for that day, I guess. But yeah, I've used the original tee for a few years now. I don't think I'll change. It's doing the trick for me. So
yeah.
Although I have seen the new wolf one come out. That looks good.
Yeah, Brazier's off the wolf one. She seems to be enjoying it and going all right. It's good to see her back goal kicking because she was younger coming through club rugby in Dunedin. She was an absolute gun, Kelly Brazier.
She's a weapon, eh?
Off the tee. We've got a lot of time for Kelly.
Yeah.
So your goal kicking and it's so awesome to see you girls inspiring the next generations of kickers coming through. We need more girls kicking a ball when they're younger and getting those mechanics happening. I probably want to hear a little bit more about your goal kicking journey. I'd imagine you just got given the ball one day and said kick. Have you had some good upskilling coaches that have helped you through it?
Goal kicking for me started way back when I was real young.
Cool.
Whenever I'd have rugby training, because I grew up playing with the boys and with my older brother, would always make mum drop us off at the rugby field 30 minutes before training, every single training, no matter what the weather was. And would use shoes or cones or would do the old dig our heel into the grass and sit our ball in that, and would just have goal kicking competitions my whole childhood. So actually, this is quite a funny story. You know those old metal swing sets that we used to have when you were kids with like a seesaw and a swing on it? Me and my brother had one of those in the backyard, and it was an old rusty one, and we actually found some tools and we took it apart and made our own goalposts out of it in the backyard. So
wow,
we had this metal blue makeshift goalposts in the backyard, and we just used to kick and that's, I guess, so like you said, I think people underestimate how important it is to get those mechanics from a young age, because then right through the ranks of when I went into girls and then women's, I always knew how to kick. So I was always the one that was given the tee.
And as you like I mentioned right at the start of the podcast, taking a kick in a test match is a lot different than kicking it over the swing set. Who's helped you with sort of developing those techniques and strategies for that kicking?
Yeah, I always think of when you're at training and someone says, I'll buy you a coffee or I'll give you $20 or something if you hit this from the sideline, and you hit it every single time. You're laughing, you're having a joke. There's not that much pressure, and it's just it's banter. So, but then all of a sudden you're in a test match, and it's so hard to switch off from everything else around you, and the whole atmosphere is just completely different. So, I think it's so important that you have your process on lock, so you try and replicate everything you do and at the training where there's the banter. You replicate that and you do the exact same as a test match, just to try and eliminate all the outside noise.
Yeah, I've heard Damien McKenzie speak about why he does the smile, and I think it's along those same lines, right? To just remind himself, I actually want to be here and enjoy this kick. For you, when you are kicking well, what are some steps in your processes, whether it's your ball setup, your approach, your strike? What are some things that you really focus on to nail your kicks?
First things first, every single kick I'll take, do my setup exactly the same, and I have the what's the bit called where you put the pump in it?
Valve.
The valve, yeah, that always faces the goalpost. So I set the seams up in that exactly the same every time, and I always make sure I take some really deep breaths while I'm setting up, and then while I'm taking my steps back. So I do 3 backwards and then 2 to the left. And I always imagine kind of a string from the goalpost down to the ball, just to try and vision where the ball's going to go. And something that I've noticed actually over probably only the last year or so while I was kicking for FPC is the outcome of my kick. It feels like it relies heavily on how I'm feeling internally.
Yep.
Like, if that makes sense, I have to be feeling very confident and very switched on. I pretty much tell myself that I'm gonna nail this kick, and I don't know. I always feel like I get more power in the ball, and I just strike it way better when I've got that internal confidence. So that's still something I'm working on, and to be able to feel that every time I go to kick the ball.
Yeah. I think it's an important point you bring up, because I'm a big fan of kickers have to be deliberate. Like, yes, just nice strike and trust your timing, all that stuff, but you still want your body to be really deliberate and confident, because if you're tentative with the kick, bad things are going to happen. The other kicking thing I wanted to speak with you about is your little cheeky grubbers you keep pushing through, which I'm well aware of. How have you developed that skill and learned to grow when to do it? Kicking when you've got good go forward, get yourselves out of trouble, turn teams around. It's a real skill you've got.
Yeah, I think again it goes back to my childhood in the backyard with my brother, just grubbering back and forth, because the neighbours would get mad when we'd do the goal kicking, and it would have to keep going over the neighbour's fence to get it. So we'd have to resort to doing a few grubbers. But
is the swing set still alive?
No, I don't know where it is. It was pretty rusty back then, so
bring it back.
Who knows?
Get it in the backyard.
But yeah, I guess that part of my game developed because I played all of my rugby from high school right up until I was about 24 as a number 10. So kicking was a big part of my game, and then moving to 12, I guess for me, I had to think about the types of kicks that I'm more likely to do there, and how I could best utilize my kicking skills as a second 5. And if you look at the personnel around our team, it's being able to use my kick to give those players time and space with the ball. So for me, being able to put a kick through and give those outside players like Renee Whitcliffe or Portia Woodman time to collect the ball with no one around them is going to be an asset for us. So there has been a lot of trial and error with it, though. Like, I've had many kicks charged down and kind of sliced off the side of my foot and put in the wrong place. But as I've gotten older and a bit more experienced, I guess I've worked on my accuracy a lot, and probably the most important thing around kicking is the decision-making part, about when to put it through, when's the right time, how much weight to put on it, that type of thing. So that's just something you learn, and I think doing it in test matches as well, being confident enough to do it in test matches is massive, because that's something that actually did take me a while. Just having belief in myself that I could kick at that level and pull it off, I guess.
The building it is what I'm really interested in. So it's a hard kick, right? You're on the move. There's defenders. There's not often space till late to put the ball through. Did you do some things at training to help develop that grubber that shapes towards the sideline and those sort of things?
Yeah, I do quite a lot of work on it at training. Even still, I'm a stickler for old habits. I'm still in the backyard now with James. Cool. It's actually a really simple kick to practice. All you need is one other person passing you the ball, and then coming on to put pressure on from different points, from inside shoulder, outside shoulder, different paces, and just about getting that timing right of when to put it on your foot, because you don't want them close enough that they can put a leg out and hit it away, but you don't want them far enough away that they'll just turn and block you off and get in front of it and collect it. So yeah, I think like I said, it's an easy skill to practice, and I don't think there's any reason why anyone who wants to get better at doing a grubber kick can't improve, because you don't need much resource at all.
How often are you in the backyard doing that?
During lockdown, it was often.
Cool.
Had a home gym set up, and my favorite way to train skills is between sets at the gym, because you are under a bit of fatigue. It doesn't feel like you're adding a whole nother training session on. As already talked about, my days are quite full, so if I can get my skill work in between sets at the gym, then I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone, plus getting the added benefit of doing my skills under fatigue. So yeah, at the moment I'm doing most of my skill work at Waikato Stadium, up there, not as much in the backyard. But yeah, when the opportunity's there, or on a Saturday morning or something, we'll quite often just go out and do a little bit. We enjoy it. So.
And last kick on the kicking, and I'm so pleased to hear that you're in the backyard, because I think a lot of people with kicking get a bit too fancy. They feel like every session has to be at the rugby field, post, gear, all the beautiful Gilbert balls or whatever. They just get fancy with it all, whereas I think, what are we doing? We're training the body to do a movement, and you can do that anywhere. So don't get too fancy. So that's really cool. Where was I going with this? I think it was about the grubber kicking, and like what you mentioned about why it's so valuable about turning teams around. You're not going anywhere, putting the ball through. It's such an asset to have as a player. So it's awesome that you've built that into the game and sharing how you've done it. I love it. A great example for young players. I want to wrap up the chat. We spoke about the post, we spoke about the impact that it's had, and I suppose there's probably, as you mentioned, there's so many people feeling the same strain. So I guess how have you managed to keep positive, to keep the self-confidence? What are the sort of things you're doing to remind yourself that, hey, I'm going all right, and keep ticking along?
I think an important thing for me that keeps me going is what we talked about earlier, and that's the amount of young girls that are picking up a rugby ball and wanting to play rugby. And every now and again I'll get a few messages, or get girls come up to me and just ask for my signature, or say that they want to be like me one day, they want to be a black fern, and that kind of stuff, like that drives me like more than anyone knows. To be in a position to be a role model for these young girls is something really special, and something that I'll never take for granted. And I'm so grateful to be in a position to be one of those people. And you'll be able to tell from the chat just how much I do actually genuinely love the game of rugby. And those moments of getting to run out, put your mouthguard in, put your boots on, you're standing next to your teammates on the field. All of that training comes down to a game, and every time I'm playing, I am just loving it. Like, in a big contact, if I'm getting smashed, all good, get back up, and just absolutely loving it. And I think I will keep playing until the day comes where I think to myself, actually, I didn't enjoy that game, or my body's breaking down a bit too much for me to carry on. So yeah, I love the game, and then I'll just keep playing until the wheels fall off, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's such a nice place for us to leave it. And exactly what you just did then. You are seriously grateful. You love the game. You're always going to love the game. But as you mentioned in your post, you're not, rather than coming across as being demanding and unappreciative, it's how can we move the game forward. And mate, I'm proud of you for what you did with your post. It came across so well, and you're doing special things and moving the game forward. So is there anything you want to wrap up with?
No, just thank you for all your support for me and for women's rugby. Definitely doesn't go unnoticed, and yeah, just thank you to everyone listening who does support us as well. It means a lot, and we'll just keep fighting and keep trying to make it better for the next generation, I guess. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome, mate. I'm hoping that I get to see you later on the year. Let's hope that we get on top of this COVID, get some test matches, and get some games in there.
I've been told not to grab her against you guys, so don't be
Come on, I'm sure you'll bust a couple out. I look forward to seeing them. Thanks, Charles. Have a great day.
Sweet. Cheers, thank you.